kind of like a bandwagon tradition, but it kind of brings things back to the old school. Now today we are going to be thank you, I appreciate it, bro Logic. Tell me my glasses are smooth. These are the ones that I wear every night of the week. I actually have two other pairs. It's been a while since I put on the gold pair. The gold pair is up in here somewhere, but I have a blue pair that I was supposed to be getting the lenses put back in, and then I would start alternating between the smoke black and the dark blue. But appreciate that. And then I still have to go and get new ones. I haven't gone and gotten new ones yet. All of that takes time. Now, we were supposed to be talking about today about codependencies, and basically this is going to be leading up to that myth about how nice guys finish last. But we're going to be talking about how the trapped masculine man can end up in this position where they're not only in an unhealthy codependent relationship, but they can also be misused or mistreated because of this unhealthy codependency behavior today. So I want to make sure that you guys take that opportunity to pay attention to what's going on with the show. You guys can feel free to comment like Raw Logic did today. You guys can also comment from Twitter or Twitch. So make sure that you guys take a look at hitting the follow buttons over there. And then if you guys want to jump into the show, you always have the opportunity to click those links in the comment section, approve the mic, approve the camera, and it brings you on in real time. So let's take a look at this ideology real quick with today's show. If you did everything right, you were patient, you're the problem solver, you're the reliable one, you sacrifice your own needs, time, and energy for the person that you love, for the relationship, for the sake of peace, right? And you believe that this is what being a good man is all about. But when you lay your head down at night, there is a hollow feeling in your chest. And typically, extensive quantities of good deeds for others tends to leave you feeling hollow. But you are told that you're a great guy, but inside, a quiet, burning resentment is building. And you don't know why. It feels like you're giving everything and getting the emotional equivalent of pocket lint in return. You feel taken for granted, unseen, and completely empty, rarely ever complimented for the actions and behaviors that you perform. And if that sounds familiar, any level of familiarity in that, you are not alone. And you're not broken. You are likely caught in a dynamic, often called the nice guy trap. Okay? And it's a trap designed to burn you out. It's going to crush your self-respect and leave you wondering how being so good could feel so bad. So it's time to understand why this is happening. And more importantly, it is time to break out of it. That gnawing emptiness and resentment isn't random. It's a symptom of something much deeper going on. This pattern is often discussed in the context of codependency, a term that can feel a bit clinical. So let's call it what it feels like, a trap. At the heart of this trap is an idea from self-help literature called a covert contract. Now, a covert contract is an unspoken, unwritten deal that you've made in your own mind. It goes something like this. If I do everything for her, anticipate her needs, solve her problems, and never rock the boat, then she should automatically give me the love, respect, appreciation, and intimacy that I want without me ever having to ask. You become the perfect boyfriend or husband. You clean the kitchen, expecting she'll notice and take the next turn. You listen to her vent for an hour, and after a bad day, expecting that she'll do the same for you when you're struggling. You plan the perfect date, quietly hoping that it leads to intimacy, and feel a sting of rejection when none of those things happen. The problem is that she never saw the contract. She never signed it. She has no idea that she's even part of the deal. So when she fails to hold up her end of the bargain that she never agreed to, you don't see it as a simple misunderstanding. You see it as a betrayal. And that's where the resentment is born. Your relationship stops being about genuine connection and starts running on a hidden transactional ledger, a silent scorekeeping when you feel like you're always losing. Now, for many men, this pattern gets tangled up with their very understanding of masculinity. Society often hands men a script for being a good man, be the provider, the protector, the stoic rock. We even had some women on the show earlier this week that were making the claim that a man, this actually happened on Sunday. The claim was that the man can't get emotional in front of his children because the story was that the man had three kids. Well, he had four kids. One of them went off to college. And then the other three kids, one 12, one 9, and one 6, all boys in the car with dad. Mom's in the store pregnant shopping. And the kids were apparently doing too much. Dad got mad and threw his phone at the dashboard of the car and broke the nav system. Uh, and some of the ladies that were in the comment section were saying that the guy should not have done that, that was domestic violence and stuff to that effect. And I had to explain, how is that domestic violence? Yes, he got frustrated. Yes, he threw his phone. He didn't throw his phone at the kids. You've got three kids. They're likely all in the back seat. Mom and dad was sitting in the front seat. Dad threw his phone in the front seat. It didn't bounce off the thing and bop one of the kids in the head. If the phone would have hit one of the kids, I would call that domestic violence. But it just hit the car and broke the car. That is a frustrated parent. That is a frustrated adult. And the one of the ladies in the comment section made it clear that in that dynamic that it was considered inappropriate and abusive because a man is not supposed to express his emotions because he's supposed to be a leader and a provider. Well, society dictates that the masculine man is supposed to suppress their feelings, they're supposed to suppress their desires, and then they're supposed to not react when people act negatively around them. So if a man gets angry or frustrated or hurt or sad, they can't express any of those feelings. And that's where the stoic rock comes from, that he just shrugs it off like a cool cat, right? Like a duck in water kind of metaphor. Don't complain about anything. Don't have too many needs. And above all, sacrifice yourself for your family. This is a societal expectation. Now, this cultural conditioning can make a people-pleasing pattern feel noble. Because while the women don't have to do any of this, this is what is expected of men. And while the link is still being explored, this dynamic can cause codependency to show up differently in men than what it would in women, sometimes masked by what society deems strong or responsible masculine behavior. So you're not just being nice, you're performing a version of masculinity that taught you your value isn't in who you are, but in what you do for others. And this shows up in a few classic archetypes when the nice guy trap uh, actually starts to appear. One of the ways that it comes up is the rescuer or the hero mentality. And we clearly can identify this one. But many nice guys are drawn to patterns who seem to need savings. They draw to this pattern where they have partners that need saving. And let's identify, like, what do I mean by need savings? These individuals are in situations where they cannot do it on their own, whatever it is. And we proactively put ourselves in their situation as the hero, doing it for them so that they don't have to do it. We find ourselves partnering up with someone with a chaotic lifestyle, emotional turmoil, or financial struggles, even boiling down to situations where you're dating a chick and giving her a ride to work because she doesn't have a car and she can't afford to get the bus every day. Dating somebody who has a lot of emotional issues, they're fighting with their family and don't know what to do, and they're just torn between all aspects of their life. Chaotic lifestyles where there's family feuds, baby daddy drama, uh, fights with the landlord, whatever the case may be. You step in as the knight in shining armor, believing that you can fix her problems. You will finally earn her unwavering love and devotion by fixing those problems. Your identity becomes tied to being her savior. Whatever her problem is, you're there trying to fix it. But the problem with being a rescuer is that you need someone to be in constant need of rescue, creating a draining dynamic where your energy is perpetually spent managing someone else's chaos, leaving none for yourself. This kind of reminds me, back in the day, there was this movie, Speed. Oh no, Terminal Velocity. That's what it was. Terminal Velocity. And it was a movie about a man who was dating this chick, and he, every movie that these two are in, they are. It was Speed too, but they were in a bomb threat in a vehicle or some type of object where if it goes below a certain speed, the vehicle blows up. Doesn't matter if it was a car, a bus, a train, a plane, or whatever it was. That's how the guy met the girl. And they supposedly fell in love by the end of the first movie. They got it together. And I thought to myself, by the third movie, this is like trauma bonding because the the excitement that y'all have in y'all's relationship is based only on near death experiences. And him being the savior and coming to save her from whatever this dynamic was, I thought to myself, there's like three movies that needed to only happen like three times out the entire relationship. And if there's a big enough gap between movie one and movie two, what y'all doing? Because he ain't saving them anymore. You can't say I saved your life every day. It's like that ship has sailed. Like first 5 days they might be grateful to you, but after that it's like you still gotta save them again, right? In order to keep up that relationship. Now, the other relationship that you find yourself drug into is the performer or the provider style relationship. And this is going to be a man whose self worth is fused with his performance, which most men find themselves in this position, be it a financial success, the ability to provide a certain lifestyle for her, or his performance in the bedroom, where he believes that as long as I am useful, as long as I provide, she's going to stay. She's going to love me, right? The terror underneath is the belief that if the performance falters, if he loses his job or has a moment of vulnerability, that his worth will evaporate, and so will her affections. Love feels conditional based on entirely different uh, levels of his utility. Now, one of the interesting things is that this is going to be the type of dynamic where women say, well, men are needy, blah, 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 because men need reassurance. Men need too much uh, uh, um, confirmation. Well, when a man finds himself in this particular dynamic where his performance as a man dictates the love and affection from the woman, if she gives him the guarantee that for who he is and what he is and is not capable of doing, that she will always love, care for him, and stand by his side, in those dynamics, she is reassuring him that it is okay to make a mistake, it is okay to fail, and she will still be here. We'll work through it together, kind of thing. And when women understand that, they start understanding that your man's acting strange because he's not sure if he's about to be replaced. We have another dynamic here, the peacekeeper and conflict avoider. This is going to be a man that has learned that conflict is dangerous. An argument doesn't feel like a disagreement, it feels like a threat to the entire relationship. So he'll say yes when he really means no. He'll agree with things that he fundamentally opposes. And he'll swallow his own opinions, needs, and frustrations just to avoid rocking that boat again. That happy wife, happy life mentality. He thinks that he's creating harmony, but what he's actually doing is slowly erasing himself from the relationship, because every time that he agrees with her, she's going to hold him to that, and she's going to start developing this behavior of we think alike, so I don't even have to ask him of his opinion because we're going to have the same opinion. My husband would agree even when he doesn't. He's going to become a ghost in his own life, and the peace he buys comes at the cost of his soul. The resentment that builds here from this self silencing is immense because deep down he knows he isn't being honest and he feels powerless to change that. Now, all of these roles are rooted in the same fundamental belief that I'm not enough on my own. I must earn love as a man and prevent abandonment by being indispensable. Now, you're not giving from a place of genuine abundance and strength. You're actually giving from a place of fear and deficit. And a relationship built on fear can never lead to fundamental success or fulfillment. It can only lead to that hollow, empty feeling that you know all too well. Now, if you recognize yourself in any of these, the first and most critical thing to understand is that it's not your fault, that you are not inherently flawed or weak. The nice guy patterns that men perform is not a character defect, it is a survival strategy. It's a set of behaviors that you likely learned at a very, very young age to navigate your world and secure love and safety. Now, for many men who fall into this trap, The roots can often be traced back to childhood environments where their needs weren't the priority. And this can happen in many ways. The uh, parentified child, maybe you had a parent who was emotionally immature, absent, or struggling, and you had to become the little man of the house early on. You learn to be responsible, take care of others, getting praised not for being a kid, but for acting like a miniature adult. You learn that your value comes from serving out others, right? Another way was the child of critical or demanding parents. Perhaps you grew up with a parent who was constantly critical or harsh to please. You learned that the only way to avoid anger or punishment was to be as perfect as you could be and walk on eggshells. Saying no or expressing a different opinion simply wasn't safe. Now, the child who feared abandonment, this is a deep primal fear that underlies all of it. Maybe you experienced a real abandonment, like a divorce, or something more subtle, like emotional unavailability from your parents. You learned a core painful lesson. If I'm not good enough or helpful enough, the people I depend on will leave me. Now, this kind of conditioning, while wasn't intentional by your parents, can forge what psychologists call an insecure attachment style. We've talked about this on the show quite a few times. Now we're talking about some of the ways that it shows up in your relationship as an adult, because you're going to learn that love is conditional, something you have to work for, perform for, and constantly worry about losing. So the nice guy strategy is born, and it was a brilliant solution for a child in a tough spot. By becoming a people pleaser, you minimize conflict, you made yourself useful, and did your best to avoid rejection. It worked, got you through. The problem is, you're not that child anymore. You're an adult, but you're still running the same old software. The strategy that was once adaptive has now become maladaptive. The fear of conflict that kept you safe as a kid now prevents you from having honest relationships. The self sacrifice that earned you praise now leads to burnout. The need for external validation leaves you feeling empty because your sense of self is entirely dependent on someone else's approval. And our culture can reinforce this program. Boys are often discouraged from expressing vulnerable emotions like sadness or fear, such as big boys don't cry or toughen up. Now, you learn to suppress your inner world, and this makes it incredibly difficult later in life to even identify, let alone express, your own needs. When your partner asks, "What do you want?" you may genuinely have no idea because you've spent a lifetime learning that what you want is irrelevant. So when you feel that anxiety about saying no, or when you automatically apologize to smooth things over, recognize it for what it is. It's a deep conditioned reflex from your past. Understanding this is the key. It allows you to stop beating yourself up and to start looking at this pattern with compassion. Because again, you are not broken. You're just running an old program. And any program can be rewritten. So the covert contract doesn't just create a private resentment, it's an open invitation for you to be used. And when you operate from a place of needing approval and avoiding conflict, you signal to the world that your boundaries, your non negotiable expectations for behavior are weak. You become a solution to other people's problems instead of a person to be in a relationship with. You teach people around you how to treat you. And the nice guy teaches people that he is a resource to be consumed. And this can show up across four key areas of your life. The first area is going to be emotional exploitation. You become the unpaid therapist and emotional sponge, typically in the friend zone. Fellas, your role in the relationship can become that of an emotional regulator for your partner, where you are the designated listener, the problem solver, the calming agent. She comes to you with all of her stress and anxiety, and you absorb it. But what happens when you need support? You might be met with impatience, distractions, or a quick, it'll be okay. And the conversation quickly pivots back to her. You learn that your emotional needs are a burden, while hers are the main event. And you can become an emotional punching bag because you'll absorb blame to keep the peace. This isn't partnership, it's emotional labor. Ask yourself, does she show genuine curiosity about your inner world? And when you are in crisis, is she as present for you as you are for her? If you feel more like a therapist than a partner, you may be getting emotionally exploited. Now, the second way this happens is a financial, practical exploitation. Most men are used to experiencing this one forthright. Some of us voluntarily get involved in this, but you become a human ATM and logistics manager. This is where the provider in a man becomes a mask, and it also becomes a heavy burden because your self-worth might be tied to your ability to provide, and you can become an easy target here. You might find yourself paying for most things: the dates, the vacations, rent, transportation to and from work. And when you try to discuss a more equitable split, you might be met with guilt tripping phrases like, I thought you loved me. Beyond money, this extends to practical labor. You become the default fixer of everything: the leaky faucet, the car troubles, the IT support. You take on all this invisible labor because you believe it makes you indispensable. But instead of generating appreciation, it often just creates expectations. Your time and energy are finite. Every hour you spend managing her life is an hour you're not spending on your own goals or your own rest. So you got to ask yourself, are the financial and practical responsibilities in your relationship balanced? Because we're supposed to be in some sort of egalitarian society, as we talked about on Wednesday with Norway. When you try to discuss money or the workload in a relationship, is it a collaborative conversation, or does it turn into an argument where you're made to feel guilty about your concerns? Now, the third one, this one is Still commonly seen, but less often with less fellas. Sexual and romantic exploitations. You become a source of validation, not a partner in intimacy. And this is a painful area where even the nice guy trap does immense damage. The covert contract is especially potent here because if I am the perfect boyfriend, she should want me sexually, is going to be what the guy will think. When that doesn't happen, you don't question the premise. You just try harder, hoping your good deeds will finally be rewarded with intimacy. Now, this creates a dynamic where sex is no longer about mutual desire for one another. It is a prize that you're trying to win. Affection and intimacy can even be used as a tool, given when you are compliant to her demands and withdrawn as a punishment when you are not. Now, this is going to go back to that boyfriend boot camp, where when some of these younger ladies expect a man to behave a certain way and make certain decisions, and if he doesn't do that, then she withdraws intimacy. It's not just sex. They'll withdraw physical contact, hugs. He can't hold her hand. He can't touch her at all. When he leans in for a kiss, she's pulling away and dodging him. And these areas of rejection because he didn't do what she expected him to do when she expected him to do that. These are ways that you emotionally control your spouse. And she may not realize this, but this is unhealthy behavior. If you don't like what he did, you don't withdraw from him emotionally. You don't reject his intimacy. You just vocalize your lack of satisfaction in his decision making process. You should potentially sit down and have a discussion as to what you were hoping for in his decision making versus what you got. And then he would negotiate with you as to what he would prefer to do versus what you wanted him to do. And then y'all find an equal medium. So if the situation arises again, you know what to expect versus what your partner volunteered to do. But you'll notice in these situations that she's suddenly very affectionate when she needs something from you, only to become distant again once her needs are met. Now, a lot of times we feel like this is a gold digger mentality, but it is not always the case because your partner's got her own life to lead. She's going to do her thing. She's going to come back. She's going to give you a lot more affection when she wants something than what she does when she doesn't need anything. And if she wants something from you and you're not able to provide it after she's provided the affection, her frustration with not getting what she wanted from you will become her getting cold with you and emotionally distant. So you will realize that you have failed her expectations because she has disconnected the emotional connection from you right after overwhelming you with the affection that you have been longing for so long. You realize that you are being used for validation. Your desire for her makes her feel desirable, but your own needs for genuine mutual intimacy are going unmet in this particular situation. Now, the fourth scenario is a social and family exploitation. And this one's a little bit different. People don't really pay attention to this one. You become the image prop and scapegoat. This also happens in the friend zone because in social circles, you might become a useful accessory, the stable good guy that she can show off to her parents and friends. You're not the boyfriend. You have no shot at becoming the boyfriend, but she can show her parents and her friend that she's got at least one guy that will go the extra mile for her. You provide an image of stability in her life that benefits her social standards, even if you're treated with indifference in private. She might be leaning on your shoulder and grabbing you by the wrist because it less likely holds your hand and taking you places and showing you things and showing you off to other people so that the validation can occur that she does have a good man in her life. But then after that engagement is over, y'all get back in the car and start going back to wherever you came from. Her attitude completely changes, right? In family conflicts, you might be used as a shield or a scapegoat. Your willingness to absorb blame makes you an easier target. If you're finally set a boundary there or establish some non-negotiable expectations for behavior, you might be framed as the one who's being difficult. Now, the disconnect between the public image and the private reality can make you feel like you're going crazy, because a common thread here is the collapse of reciprocity. A healthy relationship is a two-way street. The nice guy trap creates a one-way street where all energy, money, time, and emotional support flows from you to her, with very little coming back to you. And you are not a person being related to. You are a resource being consumed. Now, I have said plenty of times in the past that relationships are, while they're supposed to be a two-way street, they are experienced in one direction. Because as individuals, you express your love and affection to the other person. And the more you express, the more they receive. But since there's no requirement for reciprocation, you will find the harder you have to put effort in to get the person to stay, is the harder you'll have to put effort in to keep that person from leaving. And that takes you back to a dynamic of love who loves you, because the person that's giving you love, you feel love. And then if you're able to reciprocate that love, that is a less difficult dynamic than forcing someone to accept your love and then expecting that person to reciprocate that same affection. It's twice as much work, if not more. Recognizing the trap is going to be the first step, but awareness alone isn't enough. The way out isn't about becoming a jerk. It doesn't solve anything. It's about building authentic strength. It's about trading the fragile validation that you get from people pleasing for the solid, unshakable foundation of self-respect. So this journey is a practice built on three fundamental pillars. The first pillar is going to be reclaiming your voice, from that covert contract to clear communication. The nice guy operating system runs on unspoken expectations. The antidote is to start making the covert overt. You must learn to use your voice to state your needs, your wants, and your observations calmly and directly. And this isn't about being aggressive, it's about being honest. First, just start noticing your own covert contracts. When you do something for your partner, ask yourself, am I doing this out of genuine kindness, or am I expecting something in return? If you're expecting something, you can either let go of that expectation or choose to communicate your needs. Test scripts can be valuable tools for practicing this. The reciprocity test: after being very supportive, find a calm moment to say, hey, I've been holding a lot of space for you lately, and I'm glad I could be there. Right now, I'm going through something, and I could really use a listening ear. Now, a good time for me to share is that now is now a good time. You know what I mean? And when you're doing this, you are building the dynamic that while you do listen whenever she needs someone to listen to, that you now need someone to listen to you. A healthy response is curiosity. Of course, what's going on? A red flag response is deflection or annoyance. I'm really tired. After you didn't listen to all the complaining that she got going on, I'm really tired. Or she listens for 2 minutes and then pivots back to herself. Especially when you're talking about your concerns, your feelings, your emotions, and she makes how you feel about her, where she feels bad about the news that you feel bad, and then you have to console her because she feels bad, ignoring the fact that she's feeling bad because she just found out that you feel bad. See, that's a very big dynamic there. Now, there's going to be another one. There's a care versus usefulness probe. And in a quiet moment, when there's nothing going on, you ask, I was thinking about us and I got curious. What are some of the things that you like about me as a person besides the things I do for you? And this is a very thick question to ask. A healthy response will name your character traits, your humor, your integrity, your passion. Red flags is confusion or a list of your functions. Well, you're a great provider. You always fix things. This reveals that she may see you and your value primarily in your utility. The what do you want for dinner dilemma, all men have experienced. And this is a classic scenario. And it is perfect for a training ground. Her normal response is, I don't care, you pick, which always leads us to an argument. The old you, stressed out trying to read her mind, picks a place. She's subtly disappointed. You feel like a failure. Then you're going to pick another place. And this is going to lead to her being forever disappointed. You're hungry. She's hungry. And now y'all are fighting about the fact that you haven't picked the place. And you're trying to pick a place that satisfies her. The new you is going to say something like, okay, how about this? I'll name 3 options: Italian, Thai, or burgers. You choose one. If she doesn't want any of those, then you choose one. That's what y'all are going to eat. Because her argument is going to be, I said I didn't want that. And my response is going to be, well, I gave you 3 options. You didn't choose any of them. So unless there is a specific place that you would like to disclose, then I'm going for the Italian. Typically, if you're dealing with a conflictual scenario, they might give you a fine whatever and then go to the place, not really order very much. And this is going to lead to a level of emotional concern that you're going to have to address down the line. But again, if you make it about her, your dinner is destroyed, your meal is destroyed, your evening is destroyed, because whatever she was looking for out of that discussion of what does she want to eat, with her not being decisive, wasn't accomplished. Now, if you know enough about your partner and they're going to use this conversation to test you to see if you know what they want, this is going to be a situation where you're not going to ask them what they want. because they want you to know what they want. You're going to have to go and get them what they want, even if what they want is not what you want. And again, this is going to put you in a position where, if you're hungry and they're the kind of person that likes Chick-fil-A or something like that, you would go get what you want first. And they're probably going to complain about it, but you got to make it clear that I'm getting mine before I get yours so that mine gets cold and yours is hot so that we can eat ours together. But you go get yours first and then you go get hers so that her food isn't cold. Y'all are eating from two different restaurants at the exact same time because you can get stuff to go. This simple technique stops the mind reading game and it shifts you from being a mind reader to a collaborator. She's either going to help you figure this out or you're just going to make the choice. Now, pillar number 2, you're going to build fences. It's because this is going to be the art of the healthy boundary, or as I would identify it, as reestablishing your non-negotiable expectations for behavior. Because boundaries aren't really supposed to be walls, but they tend to be built as invisible walls in your relationship that further push distance between the two of you. But this is going to be a clear statement of what is and what is not okay with you, which is why I consider them non-negotiable expectations for behavior. And these non-negotiable expectations for behavior will identify what you will do to protect yourself from these negative behaviors that you will not tolerate. For the nice guy, setting some boundaries feels terrifying because it risks disapproval and conflicts. So you start small, practice some micro no's. I would find 1,000 ways to say no. But if someone asks for a favor, you don't have time. Instead of an automatic yes, you pause. You say, let me check my calendar and get back to you. This breaks the reflex. They might assume that you should have your calendar on your phone, but you're going to tell them, let me get back to you on that. I gotta check some things, see what I got to do, and then see if I'm ready for that, right? Then, after you've taken a step back, you've gotten a chance to think about your situation, really decide if you want to be involved in that. Then you're going to come back and say, well, you know what? I'm overcommitted this week and I won't be able to do that. No is a complete sentence. Your partner wants a heavy conversation late at night, and you say, I want to give this the attention it deserves, and I am too tired right now. Can we please pick this up tomorrow morning? You're going to be in certain relationships where they want this resolved now, but all they're doing is complaining. They're not actually trying to negotiate solutions. They're just venting their anger and frustrations with you, and it's not resolving anything. You're falling asleep on them because you're tired, you've got stuff to do, but they want you to stay awake and listen to them because they're angry and frustrated. Once you've made it clear that their feelings are important to you, but you are exhausted, and out of mutual respect, you would expect them to allow you to sleep now so that when you wake up tomorrow or after you get off from work tomorrow, immediately address this after you have gotten your rest and other mandatory obligations out of the way, so that that downtime that you have can get her undivided attention while you're awake. Now, if she doesn't respect that, you just go to bed. It don't matter if you go to bed in this room or you go to bed in a different room. She can get up and go sleep on the couch. As a man, I am telling you right now, put your foot down. If you don't sleep on the couch when y'all are not in an argument, you are not sleeping on the couch when y'all are in an argument. I don't give a damn whose house it is. If she want to grab her pillow and grab her blanket and go lay her behind on the couch, she can do whatever the hell she want in our house. But I will not be giving up the bed because she mad. I will go to bed in bed. Likely bring the dogs with me. Shoot, we'll put on some Netflix and go straight to sleep. She can go wherever she want to go after that. Now, the next thing we're going to deal with is a financial boundary test. Because if you feel that there's financial inequality in a relationship, the next time an uncomfortable request comes up, say calmly, I am not able to cover that this month. We need to find another way to handle this. It doesn't matter if you've got extra money coming in. It doesn't matter if you are paying everything in advance. It doesn't matter if you're preparing to spend money on something expensive. Whatever it is that that person came for wasn't part of the budget. And we're going to have to reassess the budget without compromising my already predetermined plans to accomplish this new activity. Okay? The healthy response is to problem solve with you. A red flag is going to be guilt trip, anger, or the silent treatment, pulling away, disregarding and rejecting your affections. And you have to be able to handle that. This relationship is not going to last with you getting mad and ghosting me because you don't get the money you want out of me. But if you would have stood on this position from the beginning of the relationship that I'm not spending $1 until I see results. Okay? When you set non-negotiable expectations for behavior, you have to be prepared for the other person to not like it. You hope that that doesn't happen, but they might get angry or try to guilt trip you. Your job is not to manage their reaction. Your job is to hold your expectations. Each time you do, you send a message to yourself and to the other person that my needs matter and I am worthy of respect. If you make it like, for example, I have a non-negotiable expectation for behavior for people that go places with me. They know from the beginning, before we get out of this car, that if your ass ain't in my car, when I put it in gear, your ass is getting left. At this location, no questions asked. I'm not doubling back to come get you. And I back in to most parking spaces. So you have even less time to get in this damn car. So when I say it is time to go, from the time you are notified that it is time to go till the time I get into the car, that is the time you have to say your goodbyes to the room and get in the car. You decide you're riding with someone else, that's fine. But when I leave, I'm gone. Now, some friends might test this theory and try to see if they can make you wait. And as they're trying to make you wait, the car is leaving the driveway. They're going to start chasing this car. By the time I put it in drive, if you're not in the car, driving up the road, first person gets left, everybody else in the car know he ain't playing. He said he's leaving. He left. You better call an Uber. There shouldn't be a second time. They will respect your time. You shouldn't be outside of a building 2-3 hours waiting on them when they were supposed to meet you outside. You pull up and they're not there, leave. Simple as that. I thought you were coming to get me. I did. I let you know I was on my way. I let you know when I was pulling up, and I let you know that I was leaving. You didn't respond to your phone. I don't know what to tell you. Now, pillar number 3, you want to generate your own worth. This isn't just monetary worth. You're going to go from external validation to internal integrity. And this is going to be the most important pillar. The nice guy structure is built on low self-worth, creating a desperate need for external validation. So the only permanent solution is to stop outsourcing your self-worth and start generating it from within. And here's how it's going to begin. You want to separate your worth from your utility. Make a list of your core character qualities that have nothing to do with what you do for other people. Are you curious, resilient, creative, loyal? Read this list daily and retrain your brain to see your value as inherent. Then you want to reconnect with yourself. The nice guy often has no hobbies outside of the relationship and the effort that he puts into maintaining. You must reclaim your sovereignty, reconnect with old habits. If you used to join a gym, join a gym. Take a class in something that you like. Do something that is just for you, that has nothing to do with your partner's involvement. And this isn't selfish, it's essential. It refills your tank and reminds you that you are a whole person. You want to build a brotherhood, because many nice guys lack deep, authentic male friendships. So find other men on a similar path. Join a men's group. Reconnect with a trusted friend and risk being honest about your struggles. It breaks the isolation that keeps you stuck. Iron sharpens iron. Redefine your kindness, because you have likely confused people pleasing with kindness. People pleasing is a fear based behavior, it's about controlling how others see you to avoid rejection. Genuine kindness is strength based, it comes from a place of abundant generosity, a place where it doesn't matter if people reciprocate, because you are giving because you can, not because you want something in return. A genuinely kind man can say no without guilt because he isn't afraid. He gives because he chooses to, not because he needs something in return to validate him. Your goal is to stop being a nice guy and start being an actual good man. Because a good man isn't a doormat. He has a backbone. He says yes because his yes is powerful. And his yes is powerful because his no is also available. So the time that you get that yes, it is like melting an iceberg. And they have the expectation to experience that no from you as well. If you find that every non-negotiable expectation for behavior that you set is met with extreme anger, manipulation, or punishment, it may be a sign that you are in a deeply exploitive or emotionally abusive dynamic, which is common that men get themselves in. And in these situations, you have to recognize that your safety is the priority. You can seek guidance from a therapist specializing in these issues, because this is not a sign of weakness getting professional help. It is a profound act of strength, recognizing that you cannot do this alone. And not always can you get advice from friends who have not dealt with this before. A powerful first step is to simply start observing. For 1 week, just notice every time you say yes, when you wanted to say no. Notice every time you act on a covert contract, just write it down without judgment. This simple act of awareness is the beginning of taking your power back. And when you stop sacrificing yourself on the altar of being nice, you don't become a bad person. You become real. You become whole. And the quiet resentment that has been poisoning your life begins to fade, replaced by an energy that comes from living in alignment with your own truth. You'll start to build connections based on a role you're playing, but on who you're actually uh, trying to represent. So it's not just a role, it's about who you are becoming. Some people in your life may not like this new you. This is going to be a more authentic you, especially those who used to benefit from your lack of expectations, your lack of non negotiables. And that's okay. It's going to be a necessary filter because of people who stay and the new people you attract will be drawn to the real you, and they will respect your non negotiable expectations for behavior because they respect you. The freedom that comes from this is indescribable. It's the peace of knowing your own worth isn't up for debate. It's the deep, genuine connection that is only possible between two whole people, not one person desperately trying to earn the love of another. Breaking free from the nice guy trap is the journey from being a boy who needs approval to a man who has his own back. It is the hardest and most important work that you will ever do. Now, hopefully, fellas, you were able to listen to the information that I have for you guys for today to help you guys think about different ways to address your life situations. Um, I know that after going through all of that information, I'm going to have to send that old script to a buddy of mine because he just got into yet another relationship where his partner needs rides to work. And I'm sitting here thinking, why can't you date this chick without having to drop her off at her job? Why did you become her free Uber? Um, and it leads me to observe these red flags, these people pleaser flags, these Captain Save a Hoe flags. And, you know, a lot of the times we do this because we don't want to be alone, but there's a better way to find happiness where we're not being utilized as a tool. Because while sometimes women can actually genuinely appreciate it, the fact is that if your relationship is built off of transactional utility, um, she might love what you do for her, but that doesn't mean that she loves who you are. And if you ended up not being capable of doing for her what she wants or needs done for her, because it could be acts of kindness from you at the moment and then become expectations for performance in a relationship down the line, where she went from greatly appreciating it to expecting it. And then you go from uh, being respected for the things that you do to being belittled and devalued for not doing them anymore. This is going to lead to destructive relationships because your purpose in the relationship was what you were doing for her. You need to make sure that your relationship is fundamentally based off of the existence of each other. That you can do stuff for her and she can do things for you, but your core relationship is not fundamentally based off of utility or transaction. Because when things change in your relationship, if what you came here for is no longer there, the value in the relationship has changed. And that's a huge universal expectation. If what both of you came to this relationship for is no longer there, the dynamic of the relationship changes. Special shout out in Detroit, Michigan. Child, you missed out on a whole hour and some change. I thought you were going to be here like at the beginning of this show. We just covered a whole bunch of stuff. we was actually on our way out. Man, you must have got here late right after work or something. Never fear though, because if you're watching me on a shorts reel, you know that you can you should have already liked and subscribed to the show. But you can go back and watch this show from the very beginning because there is a lot of good information on this one. See, look, I called it. Today wasn't a really long topic because we were talking about how men end up in codependent situations where, ironically, they put themselves in those positions based off of their understandings of the way they grew up, or in scenarios where they just interact with society this way, and they could end up in relationships where they put themselves in these relationships where they're actually being exploited in the relationship by design, because like a people pleaser can only identify as uh, the people pleaser by actually servicing other people, or the hero complex where you're only coming to save the day for the sake of saving the day, but that requires somebody to be saved, which means that you put yourself in relationships with people that are in extreme need so that you can provide for them the things that they need, but doing that out of the utility of being needed. The unwritten expectation is that you'll be validated and appreciated for what you've done, when really you just subsidize their conflicts and they're not obligated to appreciate or reciprocate that because they didn't ask you to do it, you volunteered it. And it goes from being a gift with strings attached to resentment because you thought that this was going to lead to a specific outcome without the other person ever realizing that that was the outcome that you sought. So we went through a large quantity of things to identify today so that even all of the men could realize that if we change our behavior patterns in these relationships, instead of us mistreating women as if they're all gold diggers, because that's not necessarily the case. A lot of the times women don't even know that you're in need of any type of reaction or response or validation or anything to that effect, and you're performing as the boyfriend and the husband in specific ways for the reaction, and you're not getting it because she doesn't know that she has to give it. And that lack of communication, that lack of clarity leads to conflict, unnecessary conflict in the relationship, where men feel unappreciated and unseen. And yes, we talked about ways to change that dynamic and to realize in yourself as a man, like, what are you doing this for? Are you doing this for the attention, or are you doing this because you want to do it for the other person, or you just want to do it just for the sake of doing it? When you're doing it because you can, where you don't expect anything in return, that's fine. But when you're doing it to get something in return, you need to think about what you wanted out of this and then just go to your partner and ask for that. If you want to know that you have a solid position in your relationship, you need to just go to your partner and talk to your partner and let them know that you're concerned about your position in a relationship, not because you want to break up, but because you don't feel like you're getting the right responses to remind you that you're important. And your importance as a man should not be strictly utility. Your importance as a man should be based on the true value that your partner has in you even without the utility. Because a man can tell a woman all of the reasons why he wants her to stay that has nothing to do with sex, nothing to do with cooking, nothing to do with cleaning. But if a man can't get all of the reasons why a woman wants a man to stay that has nothing to do with being a provider or a protector, that not fixing stuff, like what about his character that got him here? You know, if he was in a wheelchair and couldn't do nothing else for you, what about his character would keep you here? You know, that's when you really have to start thinking, what did you really get in this for? And who are you in this with? So, um, before we walk out of the show, so you can always start the show over from the beginning and you can get all of this information uh, and more, because we put up a lot of stuff on this channel and we've got a lot of things being released throughout the day, well, throughout the week actually, because I'm not sitting here for 48 hours just pre-posting videos. I'm exhausted. Hopefully, I forgot to say, Nicole, happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, yeah, and New Year coming up. New Year is going to be Thursday. Oh, and just as a heads up, I just remembered, for those of you that were doing a dividend rotation strategy, we picked up PSEC before Friday, and we were holding PSEC, which is Prospect Capital stock for the dividend rotation strategy, and we're going to be selling that stock on Monday because the money is going to be clearing by Tuesday, Wednesday. We want to be able to pick it up before Friday to Harbor stock, because we're going to be going into the quarterly stocks for January. And if we're picking that up, the first is, I think, on Tuesday or Wednesday. So by Thursday or Friday, we pick up that to Harbor stock, and we'll be ready for the 5th, which is the following week, for that particular stock's return. And if I remember correctly, we're going to come out of Two Harbors and potentially go straight into GlobalNet, which is another undervalued stock that should produce a lot of returns. So I will be giving you guys more information about that as we get closer to it, grabbing those ex-dividend dates so that we can stay on top of those stock options. Beyond that, yeah, because I wish you would have been here an hour ago, but I understand that you had to work. I will be here tomorrow. We're actually getting the show teed off on time. And depending on the topic, sometimes I carry it for 2 to 3 hours, and sometimes I carry it for a little over an hour. And I'm disappointed that I missed you today, but I'm glad that you were here, because you got to work, you got to make your money. But on my way out, I want to say thank you guys for coming to the show. But before I go, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. And fellas, really got to take the information that I provide to you guys to make yourselves higher value men, because this is not just about changing your financial life, because as men, we are valuable outside of our money and our resources. We need to find out what value we have in ourselves so that we can understand what kind of value we provide to other people. And then beyond our professional lives, we need to be able to curate and improve and maintain better our personal lives so that we have a proper place for a stable, healthy, and non-conflictual relationship to exist. In addition to, because most of those men that are out there, I actually found in recent times that there is starting to become a large protest of fathers with parental alienation out there. And this is a large generation, so I'm going to be covering that show coming soon. This is a large generation of men that want to build families. And we need to figure out how we're going to put ourselves in that position to improve how we get into these families. Because if we get into the families from a toxic perspective, we're not going to have the right relationships. And then we're not necessarily going to be able to secure the husband wife or father mother relationship with the child. We're going to end up in a broken home with child support and custody court. So this is one of the things that we need to improve. And by taking today's show with changing from the nice guy mentality and switching towards self prioritization and valuations, you will be able to set a more healthy dynamic, which will lead you towards a more effective and more happy relationship. Mr. Zeno said, after our talk last week, I was able to dialogue with myself and ask for forgiveness. Well, I'm glad to hear that. It is always important for us to be able to recognize the things that we weren't doing the way we would have hoped in our personal relationships, and then start making changes and improvements. Once you see the flaws in the life that you have, that you are in control of, that you can change, when you put forth proactive effort into improving that life, that is when you find yourself with a happier and more stable life. There are things in your life that you cannot control, like child custody court, abusive families, parental alienation, and you have to navigate around that. Your life is not going to be perfect, but everything that is inside of your control, you have the capabilities to put enough effort into that to make it better than what it is. It's not about giving up, and it's not about it is what it is. It is about making extreme change for the better, because we are less than a week away from 2026. And we should be going into 2026 with the full knowledge that 2026 will be better than 2025. The things that we were doing in 25 that wasn't working, we're going to stop doing that and start doing something different. The things that we used to do in 24 that wasn't working, we should have stopped doing that in 25. In 26, two things that this is a bucket list that we need to start. Two things we're getting rid of in 26 is unnecessary stress and the unnecessary desperation for validation from others. We need to prioritize ourselves. So ladies, y'all can take this information and utilize it to make yourselves higher value women, because we need to prioritize ourselves as far as our self-esteem. In 2026, the esteem of myself needs to be guided by me, not validated by outside people. And we all need to have that mentality. This isn't about being selfish. This is about being respectful to ourselves first and foremost. Then we need to prioritize ourselves by deliberately reducing and removing stress out of our life, especially the unnecessary stress, because there's going to be some things you just have to deal with. But there are so many more things that we don't have to put up with. We do not need to put ourselves in certain situations that will cause us to have to endure certain levels of stress that would otherwise not be in our lives if we were not deliberately trying to behave in a fashion that doesn't benefit us. Remember, we have 20-year plans we're supposed to be working on. And with those 20-year plans, what we need to do is we need to figure out what will sabotage our success of our 20-year plan. And then don't do that. Make a list of things that would interfere with your ability to be successful with your 20-year plan. And then don't do that. When you start looking at your calendar to see if you're capable to be involved in somebody else's idea, you go check and see if that idea is on your not to do list. Because if it's not to do, you don't have availability for that. Okay? So actually, I got two shows that we're supposed to be trying to get up there for next week, because we just found that protest that's going on about the fathers being alienated from their children. So I want to cover that topic, and then I want to cover another topic from yesterday that I have to put up there, where we had a question from one of the fans, and I was going to cover it later in the week. So I still haven't put that up there yet, I actually got it started, but I haven't put it up there yet. So I'm going to get those up there for to close out next week's show. So really, we only have, I think, just Monday and Wednesday that's not filled in yet, and we're going to be trying to get that over this weekend. With that being said, I want to thank you guys for coming to tonight's show. Thank you for coming to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I'm going to see you guys tomorrow night.
Chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command.